Globally, we spend 107 billion a year on cosmetics and 1,069 billion on alcohol. So you could give everybody in the world clean water for about 10% of the world's bar bill every year. It's a multi-level, and like most complicated problems, there's no silver bullet. Although some water issues fall within the economic sphere, some fall within the environmental sphere, some will be in the development sphere, some will be in the security sphere. They're not properly joined up. And I wanted to write a book that told as a story the connection between human beings and water, and why our environmental, social, economic, security challenges will, over the course of the 21st century, set the course of future human history. I wanted to write it not as a textbook, but as a story that people could make sense of. And you can see that in a world where there's a conflict for resources, water being number one, you could easily get that water conflict spilling over into military conflict. And when you recognize there are 56,000 major dams in the world today, and 28,000 are in China, and they're preparing well. The other thing that I would say that we have to worry about is our misuse of the groundwater, which has been our gift from posterity in the Saudi Peninsula, where their water, which was about the size of Lake Erie, laid down 10,000 years ago at the end of the Ice Age, they have actually reduced it by 80% in one generation. So there is the possibility of massive misuse of our groundwater. Israel, which got at one point almost down to the Black Line in the Sea of Galilee, the point at which it would have been salt encroachment would have ruined it forever. They got quite close to that. They brought in a number of different measures. They raised the price of water through the water companies to discourage overuse. They brought in some governmental controls over things like low-flow showerheads, simple measures. Then got to the point where they were recycling water to the level of 84%. So Israel is the most water efficient country in the world. It uses its wastewater in agriculture, for example. The next country after Israel is probably Spain at 17%, and the United States is under 10% in terms of how water efficient it is. And Israel then, of course, went into the desalination process. It was expensive at first. It's got much cheaper. Technology's got much better, to the point that Israel now overproduces fresh water. Another area that also requires international cooperation is plastic pollution of the oceans. On our current trajectory, by 2050, the weight of plastic in the oceans will outweigh the weight of fish in the oceans, which is an act of environmental vandalism unprecedented in human history. And 4 countries are responsible for most of that plastic pollution. China, Indonesia, Vietnam, and Thailand put more plastic into the world's oceans every year than the rest of the whole of the world combined. Now, we need to get into the realm of international plastic treaties to make sure that countries are recycling and not simply using the oceans as a dumping ground, because we've got so much. It's estimated there's up to 50 trillion pieces of plastic in the oceans at the present time. And we've just had, congratulations to human behavior, we've just had our first microplastic snow in Antarctica. So there is now no part of the globe that's not polluted by plastics. Of course, at international level, we need to be able to deal with the legal problems around treaties on water sharing. And we need to be aware of the military risks that come. We need to work really hard to recognize that the problems are coming and then potentially reduce them. And we do need, as a matter of very clear policy objectives, to recognize that we cannot continue as a human race to see the acceleration in population that we've seen over the past couple of hundred years, because we simply, even with our technology, even with our greater awareness, we will not be able to deal with the basic limitations of what the planet has in terms of water for our species that is largely made up of water, that comes from water, that is hugely dependent on water. We need to understand our vulnerabilities before it's too late. I'm always optimistic when people say, Liam, are you a glass half full man or a glass half empty man? I simply say I'm Scottish, the glass isn't big enough.